Hey guys, thank you for clicking onto this video. So last night I was watching the Mandalorian series, the first and second series, and I was watching it for hours and hours straight. And all I could ask myself was, why is it this good? The story is that well written. Man, I was in my seat for hours. And usually shows like this doesn't do that to me. I'm usually like taking a walks to the fridge to see if I could grab a snack or take a look at my computer, see if my favorite YouTuber uploaded a video, or take a look at my phone and just see anybody bust out a text or something. But this series got me wondering, what is the secret sauce to this series? Cause I just want more of it. So I asked myself, what is it? What got me hooked on this? And the answer was all so simple. Okay, so I did the breakdown right here. You could definitely tell that it's a sci-fi setting. Future-like city, floating cars. In this particular picture, the warrior lady has stepped out of her car, put herself in fighting stance because she noticed that there are three jet-packed mercenaries on her way to come and get her. She's in fighting mode right now. Getting these images in my mind always happens when I'm watching something good. And I always have like a little pencil and pad right next to me just in case I forget it. Because one thing is about absorbing, these good stories and watching some good art, you get a little inspired. So it's always nice to have a little pen or a pad and just write it down or try to draw it down before the image leaves your mind. And you don't want to be like, oh man, I just had a great idea. I just had a cool image in my head and I just lost it. So it's always nice to have a little pen and pad and just write it down, because you never know. You might actually want to revisit that idea and want to see it complete. So it's best to always have a little piece of paper and a pen or pencil right next to you, because you never know, you might get that feeling. You'd be like, I had that idea just a few months ago, a few weeks ago. Let me see what I could do about it today. And there you go. So let's get back into why The Mandalorian is so good. So what I mean by simple, you take a simple concept like good versus evil, light versus darkness, the bad guy versus the good guy, the cop versus the thief. Simple stuff. In the Mandalorian case is a guardian protecting a child from an evil empire. The battle between good and evil. Yes, the classic story. And that's what makes it so good. So let's run down a short story, a background story of the Mandalorian. So a bounty hunter who's been contracted by the Empire to retrieve a child, and he accomplished his mission. But somewhere down the line, he felt sorry for the child. He kind of did a 360 on his mission and what he was supposed to be doing. What was supposed to be just hand over the child, get paid, and walk away. But he didn't do that. He just changed his mind and decided to take the child back and keep the child and put it underneath his protection until he finds the proper group or people that could take care of the child. But with that action came a certain consequences. He became one of the most wanted men out there because the child was an important item to the Dark Empire. Now, how cool is that? You got a mercenary who do things for money, just somehow just changed his mind and became a guardian of a child. That's a life-changing moment. And to top it off, you got a huge evil empire that's willing to kill you to get to the child. Simple, but effective and brilliant. This reminds me of a movie out there called The Replacement Killers. I think it was a John Woo movie where a hired killer is supposed to assassinate a little boy. And for some strange reason, just like the Mandalorian, changes his mind and says no. So the person who contracted for him to kill the child somehow contracted other killers to kill the contractor that was supposed to kill the child. Strange, but still. A hired killer did a life-changing moment where it leads to a high intense action movie where bullets are flying all over the place. But there's another movie out there that I feel that has a lot of inspiration towards The Mandalorian. And if you're like me who watches a good amount of Kung Fu, where you watch the Five Fingers of Death, Five Deadly Venoms, the One Arm Boxer, Killer Army, a whole lot of Shawn Brothers movies, you're going to encounter a movie called Shogun Assassin. Now, in Replacement Killers, you get to find out what happens when a bounty hunter or a killer mercenary refuse or doesn't do a certain job for a mob or even empire. They make a life-changing moment. But in a Shogun Assassin, where I feel like there's a little bit more to it in The Mandalorian show, I feel like there has been some type of influence or inspiration towards making the Mandalorian show. Someone must have saw that movie, The Shogun Assassin, and say, hey, look at this samurai protecting his son from the evil Shogun empire. We could run with that and twist it up and make it a space version of the Shogun Assassin show. I could be wrong, or maybe my imagination's going wild. But every time I see the Mandalorian show, when I see the Mandalorian walking with Baby Yoda in his space cradle, I can't help but to think of Shogun Assassin, where the samurai father is walking with his son in his cradle, and both the guys are strong, talented, and they have this skill where they can fight off the enemies, they can fight off the killers, the mercenaries, the bounty hunters. These are strong, silent men that live with a certain code, and this code is what keeps them alive. This code helps them to survive. To see these men protecting these little ones from a great harmful force out there, I can't help but to think that maybe somebody in the creative crew from The Mandalorian took some type of premise from the Shogun Assassin show and just ran with it. So I came to a thought of what inspired the creative crew from Shogun Assassin to make the show. If I ever had a chance to sit down with the crew, they probably would just tell me something that they saw in a comic or in a manga or in an animation or maybe another kung fu flick, something like that. Or maybe even something unexpected like a drama show or a love movie. Yes, even inspiration could come from odd places. This reminds me of when I was working at a retail store, and I was surrounded by a lot of people who wanted to work in the entertainment business, like writers, artists, painters, guys who wanted to be movie directors, actors, actresses, people who wanted to do camera work, editors. A lot of people wanted to do movie stuff. Whatever entertainment, it was definitely there. But there was one particular dude named Alex who was always talking about animation, movies, cartoons, the stuff that we all enjoy, from horror to sci-fi to even drama. And I'm always seeing him writing stuff, short stories, especially on his break. So one day I was just like, I just wanted to know one day. So one day I came to work and I kind of asked him, I said, hey Alex, I'm always seeing you writing. Even on your break, what motivates you to become a writer? He said to me, took me a little off guard. So what he said was, I have seen Akira more than 30 times. At first, I looked at him kind of funny, because I never met anybody who watched the movie more than 30 times. He told me that if you look at a certain movie more than a couple of times, you kind of get the whole picture of it. You kind of get the message of the movie a little bit more. And sometimes the director will have a hidden message in there. So it's kind of cool, hearing these things out from people who wants to write stories or direct a movie, because everybody wants a story to tell. And knowing that such a thing like Akira has motivated so many people out there. Because when I look at Kira these days, I'm looking at great animation. I'm looking at such a cool story, a bunch of kids with psycho powers, doing some crazy stuff, gang fights, violence. Akira was like my first adult movie to watch. Yes, adult. Okay, I wouldn't say adult movie, but an adult animation. Because right after Akira, I got hooked. I got hooked watching Fist of the North Star, Street Fighter movie, Vampire Hunter D, and it went crazy from there. I watched a lot of Japanese animation. Man, Akira was my first adult animation, and to this day, I still watch it. So looking back at our conversation and look at how I'm looking at movies now, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm doing the exact same thing of what he just mentioned to me a couple of years ago. I am watching John Carpenter movies over and over again. Look at his movie, They Live. Man, every time I watch that movie, I'm totally being absorbed in there because I like the universe that he was building. And man, that street fight, that was the longest street fight I ever seen in movie history. Oh man. But John Carpenter doesn't always, his vision doesn't always settle right for everybody. So writers and directors, they have a product to sell, and a product is called the story. Their main goal is to get you glued onto the seat and have you fascinated by the story. Look at John Carpenter. Let's look at his product, which is The Thing, Precinct 13, and The Fog. I got them all in my DVD collection. That is the end product of what they are hoping to sell. Talk about collection. If you look at somebody's DVD or Blu-ray collection, you could tell what they're into. Either they're into horror or sci-fi, a little bit of mystery or thriller. You can easily see that somebody is into something. If I go into somebody's house and I see they got all the Freddy Kruegers and all the Friday the 13th, all the Chuckies, I can immediately tell this guy is into horror. Or if I go to somebody's place and I see a lot of Star Trek, Star Wars, and Buck Rogers, I can immediately tell the person's into sci-fi. Or how about somebody's comic book collection? If you see a lot of Spider-Man's, Fantastic Four, the Avengers, well, you can easily tell that the person is a Marvel fan. Or if you look at somebody else's comic book collection and they got a lot of DC stuff like Superman, Batman, of course they're into DC. So we all vote with our money. We get to pick who's the right candidate to come into our collection. And it's a cool thing to use this filtering process to choose wisely who we want to entertain us and who we want to support. What I mean by who we want to support, let me give you a small example. Look at Todd McFarlane. He was a good Spider-Man artist for many years. So he went from a Spider-Man artist to going to form his own company called Image Comics with a couple of other artists out there. And he made a character called Spawn, became instantly popular, sold hundreds and thousands of copies. Of course, I had to buy a couple of his issues. After that, it went from Spawn the comic to Spawn the animation. Then after Spawn animation to Spawn toys. Then he had a couple of video games as well also. So not everything was a hit, but Spawn itself was a cool character that just reached out to in many different formats, from cartoons all the way down to games and animation. And knowing his history as a comic book artist and doing a few issues of Batman, I kind of find that inspiring that a guy went from comics all the way up to toys is kind of like an amazing achievement. That's a thing I kind of want to support. Another thing about looking at somebody's collection, you get a small glimpse of their childhood history in there. Of course, you're going to see what they're mostly into, either sci-fi, horror, or mystery, but you get a glimpse of, if you look at my collection, you're going to see a little bit of He-Man and a little bit of G.I. Joe, only because there's an emotional attachment there It reminds me of when I was small, running home to see my favorite cartoon, which was Transformers and G.I. Joe. So seeing these toys, these physical items, could immediately send you back remembering how it feels to be a kid again. So let me give you another example of sometimes these physical items or toys or statues could give you flashback memories. So I remember back in the days when Jim Lee was an X-Men artist, and he went to Image Comics with Todd McFarlane to make Spawn, but he made a popular group called Wildcats. So Wildcats was a popular comic, did very well, just as well as Spawn, sold thousands and thousands and thousands of copies, but it also translated into cartoons. It was maybe Channel 2, and it was also popular. So it went from comics to animation. Then one day they made their own toys. And I still remember the day when I woke up, I think in my early 20s, and I woke up and I turned on the TV. Maybe it was a Channel 2 or Channel 4. And I still remember the newscast was saying that there was a big giant fight in Toys R Us. A huge fight in Toys R Us for Jim Lee's Wildcats. Yes, toys, for Jim Lee's Wildcats toys. And the look on her face was it was kind of shocking, because it did sound like a battle royal happened in Toys R Us for toys. So yeah, looking at a physical item could send you back to the days of how you hunted down the toys. I still remember the days my friends were telling me that they waited for hours and hours on a line just to get their PS3 or their Xbox 360 in the rain, in the snow, in harsh weather. So yeah, looking at a certain item could send you back to remembering a certain period of time of how hungry you was for that toy, for that item, for that console, for that stuff, that special stuff that we like to put in our collection. So let's look at Star Wars for a little bit, which the Mandalorian operates in. Star Wars, it grabs everybody, from a small child to a full-grown adult. Now, for a young little boy and a young little girl, we know why they consider it cool. Because it has all the cool things underneath that umbrella, especially in Star Wars. It has cool-looking tanks, cool-looking bad guys, cool-looking good guys, laser swords, laser guns, big starships, futuristic cities, a mystical force that you can't see. Oh man, you got Darth Vader, you got cool names like Luke Skywalker. Come on, a name like Luke Skywalker, that is freaking cool. Darth Vader? Oh, come on, you can't get no better than that. Everything that is considered cool in sci-fi is in Star Wars. So it's definitely understandable why young children love this show, this series. Especially in the Mandalorian. Come on, Baby Yoda, look at that thing. That thing is so cute. How could you not love it? You just want to pick it up and pinch his cheeks. But for us adults, there's another reason why we like Star Wars. Yes, we have the same fascination as the kids do. But there's a phrase in Star Wars that is so cool to this day. And that phrase is, "Luke, I am your father." And that phrase right there, it got you. It got you hooked. It got you wanting more. So the simple concept of the light versus dark, the good guys versus the bad guys, the battle between good and evil has gotten a little bit more juicier, a little bit more personal. All from the phrase, "Luke, I am your father." Now it's a family thing. Should the son join the father, or should he stay in the rebel side to go against the Empire? These are the things that adults look for. We look for them because our entertainment that we grew up with when we was little kids, half of them decided to stay where they are. A lot of the stuff that we grew up with, they grow so slow, and it seems like we grow so fast because by the time we are adults and paying rent and paying bills, they are still being shown to appeal to children, which means they have to stay in that area so they could keep up with the toy sales. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of understandable because the toy sales would dictate if the cartoon will get a season 2, season 3, or even a little bit beyond that. You know, the toy sales count, the book bags count, the mugs count, the t-shirts count, all that stuff counts for the cartoon to be a success. Now, every once in a while, you get a writer that wants to upgrade the cartoons that we grew up with. So you might, every once in a while, you might get a grown-up version of Transformers or stuff like that. Just like Michael Bay's Transformers. That's a grown-up version of Transformers. Successful. You know, that also lead to a lot of toy sales and a lot of video games. So what happens when you're a full-grown adult seeking more? Of course, you're gonna get soaked into a lot of animation. You know, a lot of Akira and Cowboy Bebop and the Trigun and what's that thing with all those kids and a couple of robots? Evligon? I think I said it wrong, but you know what I mean. Either way, that's another option to find your adult fix in. But you kind of want to see some live action, you know? And that's where Star Wars comes in. When Darth Vader said, "Luke, I am your father," that was the hook that got a lot of people in, like, oh yeah, now it's getting juicy. Yeah, even though you sense something was up, you feel something was up because the writing was that good. So when Darth Vader spilled the beans and said, "Hey, I'm your pops. I got this evil empire right here. Join me. We could do crazy damage across the galaxy." You know, what is Luke gonna do? Is he gonna listen to his sister and Yoda? We all know the end results, but still, that element of juiciness was good. And that's what you call drama. I'm gonna go back to when I was a little kid watching a TV series on Channel 7 called All My Children. Me and my mother used to watch that so many times. She got me so hooked on that. And at first I was like, why are these grown adults going crazy for this one lady in the town? What's going on here? You know, what's up with this Erica thing? You know, of course she was hot, you know, and she was rich. And she had a little bit more than a whole lot of people. That also made it more appealing for her. So after a couple of years of that, I began to understand why, you know, the craziness for Erica. Because as we go through adulthood, a certain moment of our life fantasizing about one particular person, and that fantasy lasts for a certain amount of time before you start to wander off towards others. In other words, every person has a crazy crush on somebody. A crush that sometimes lasts so long, a little bit longer than you think. So I can understand why a lot of guys was crushing on Erica. You know, plus there was a lot of jealousy going on, but still, it's all underneath drama. And the drama in Star Wars was pretty cool. Father versus son. Hey son, you don't come to this side. Hey, we're gonna have to start battling. You know, that was the crazy side of Star Wars. You know, I got a dark overlord behind me. He says, hey, if I don't come and recruit you, there's gonna be drama. You know. And with that phrase of Luke, I'm your father, every adult know what was going to go down. Yeah, here comes the drama. Here comes the juicy part, you know. That's what made it so good. It satisfied a lot of adults out there. Yes, the cool laser swords and the cool starships. Yeah, bonus for us adults because it satisfies us as adults and the young kids. But hearing that phrase, "Luke, I'm your father," yeah, it just did a little bit more for us. So going back on the Mandalorian, where he went back to get Baby Yoda from the evil empire, that moment, he changed his mind. He changed his way from becoming a hired mercenary to a savior towards Baby Yoda. That was a surprisingly life-changing moment where every adult can understand that we all going to have this one or two moments of our life that may change everything that we're going to do. So let's go back to Akira a little bit, where my friend said he watched Akira more than 30 times. Well, I did the exact same thing. I'm not sure if it's 30 times, but I know it was a lot. I know it was enough for me to understand there's a lot of drama in Akira where two biker gangs are fighting to themselves in an endless battle until one day a member by the name of Tatsuo got in contact with a power called Akira, and boy, he went power crazy. He went from a nobody to to a god-like being. And one of his closest friend, Kaneda, could not understand how he got the power or why he got the power. But it was a very good anime. If you haven't seen it, you gotta watch it. I'm definitely not gonna spoil it for you. It's funny how things come in full circle. For kids, they get to enjoy their toys. They get to enjoy their toys. They get to throw it around. They get to put magic marker on it. They get to trade it with their friends. They get to put it in a bathtub, and they do crazy stuff with their toys. Because they love the cartoons of where the toys come from. Now for us grown-ups, we call our toys action figures and statues, miniature statues. We don't get to play with them. We got to put them on a shelf and make sure nobody touches it but us. Isn't that funny? Isn't that kind of strange how things work? So, how do you feel about the stock market? How do you feel about gambling? Well, I'm guessing in the stock market, everybody's yelling at each other, saying numbers and who's buying what and who's not buying this, and people just tossing numbers all over the place. What if I told you that they're all gambling and see who sells and see whose stock is going down? They all have to gamble on somebody to make it through the day. They all have to sell something. In the entertainment business, it is no different from the stock market. People are gambling on the latest ideas. People are yelling out the latest trend and hoping the newest storyline will catch your eye. So in the stock market, where people are yelling out words and numbers, it's no different in the entertainment business where people are saying, I'm putting stock on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. No, I'm putting stock on Batman. One person might be selling, hey, I'm selling Marvel. No, I'm selling DC. No, hey, let's put money on Dungeons and Dragons. No, let's put money on more X-Men. No, let's put money on more Avengers. No, is somebody selling Transformers? Is somebody selling Iron Man movies? How about some more Ghostbusters? How about some more Stranger Things? Everybody in the entertainment business is tossing out names, and hopefully they will sell. No different from the stock market. They're all gambling. They're gambling for your attention. It kind of sounds kind of deranged, but this is what they have to do to get your attention. More money on Freddy Krueger, more money on Michael Myers, more money on Jigsaw, whatever it takes. Let's do another vampire movie. That's safe. Hey, they're going to gamble on what is on the new thing. And they're going to gamble big. They're going to gamble big time. And hopefully they voted for the right writer to get your attention. It's all a gamble, and many writers are gambling their reputation to see if they could do the job, to see if they could succeed in getting you to sit down for 2 hours straight and have a eagle-like laser focus on their product, which is the story. And hopefully after that, you go get the mugs and the book bags. and whatever product they could slap the name on, Hey, it's big business to get your attention, and they're all hoping that the payoff is big. Hey guys, thank you for hanging out with me for the last 30 minutes. I know the last session was a little bit of a twist, but seriously, your attention is big business. Until then, let's try to support our bookstores, our comic book stores, our movie theaters, and what's left of the gaming stores, because you never know. Until then, take care of yourself and bye.